Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for Monday, the 9th of December, 2019. Well, Monday's a moon day. Tomorrow is, let's see, the full moon is on the 11th, so tomorrow's maiden. It's also my husband's 66th birthday. So, milestones and all. But it's nice to be coming into a little bit of energy here with the full moon. The correspondences are up for today. I did a lot of writing this weekend. There's a goddess forecast up where I talked about Vesta and Juno and Ceres and Pallas with a little bit of Lilith thrown in. What's happening this week with the goddesses. I did a Lilith post the week before, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do a series like that where I look at goddess influences. I don't know if it'll be weekly or bi-weekly or what it's going to be, but kind of a work in progress there. Also, it's up on both the blog and over on Patreon. I don't remember if I posted it on Medium. I know that I posted the weekly Moon and Rune over on Medium, also on the blog, also on Patreon. And those two on Patreon, those are not locked to just patrons. It's for anyone to see. So if you want to go over to Patreon, the link to it is below the video, and see what my page looks like and what I've got posted there. Some of it is locked for patrons, but a lot of it isn't. I'm new there, so I'm getting acquainted there. Also, there was a bind rune I did also this weekend. I think it was on Saturday, about ending deception. So if you want to check that out, you can do that as well. That's over on the blog. I don't know that I cross-posted it anywhere else, though. I'm going to have to look. But in any event, if you want to check that out, do that. Again, the blog is at imsteppingaside.com. It's called Stepping Aside. And if you haven't been over there, it's a witch blog, and witchcraft and herbalism, I guess, would probably be the best title for it. But anyway, I've added some new affiliates to my. I'm expanding my role as an affiliate marketer, or whatever you call us. It was just a way to monetize my blog a little bit. I resisted doing that for years, and then finally I started doing it, and I started out with just being an Amazon affiliate, and then I discovered I could be other things as well. And so I've been adding more. So you can check over there at the different folks that I'm promoting. In any event, though, I'm going to do an affiliate page where I have them all listed separately. Right now, there's just a main page. I finally figured out WordPress changed their editor to Gutenberg, and I like it. It's in block format, and this last update has been really cool. It's gotten way more versatile, and you can do more things with it, and so I'm really happy with that. But I finally figured out how to adjust my menu structure, and it used to be really easy that you could go to the main page there where you could just define it right when you do it, where it's going to be and what position and all of that. Well, that wasn't working, and I was really upset because I needed to move some things around, and just this weekend I found where I do it after. So I fixed my menus. Anyhow, we have a 9 energy today. Endings, completion, humanitarianism. Uranus, Pluto, and Vesta are still in retrograde. The sun is in the 12th house of Sagittarius, so some self-reflection is going to go on today. It's kind of like when Jupiter is in retrograde. You instead of it being expansive outward, it's expansive inward. So with Sagittarius, you're going to kind of do the same thing. You're going to be looking at yourself and what you value and what you think and believe and all of that. The moon, though, is kind of at odds with itself maybe today. It's in Taurus in the 4th house. And usually when it's in Taurus, we're talking about security is found through or when you derive emotional security through routine, stability. In the 4th house, you're looking at home and hearth and all of that. If it were in the second house, then you would say that emotional security is derived through possessions or resources or something like that. So you kind of see how that works there. There's a trine with Venus where it's asking us to express gratitude today, but there's a problem with the moon is in conjunct the sun, and it may leave us feeling a little bit out of sorts. So just know that that's just an energy thing, and just allow that wave to pass, and don't take the bait, don't respond, just sort of keep your own counsel there. Again, reinforced by a semi-square with Jupiter, between Jupiter and the moon, avoiding excess and exercise some restraint today. Just be aware that if you're feeling a little funky, well, it's just the energy. It's not probably because there's any real reason for it. Mercury in the 11th house, Sagittarius. You're going to want to expand your worldview with friends and groups, which, kind of is at odds a little bit with the sun wanting some self-reflection today. So it just seems like kind of like today's going to be kind of all over the place. Maybe you're just dealing with issues of polarity, say within how you feel, like you want to go out and do things, but yet no, no, it's Monday, leave me alone. Mars is still in Scorpio in the 10th house right now, so career's still in focus. I think that's pretty much it. I don't really see anything else there. So, okay, let's go ahead then and get started. We got impeachment hearings again right now. We've been up since 6. Just like, oh, geez. So we get to hear it all over again, or at least some of it, and it's frustrating. So they're on a break right now, so I thought, well, I'm just going to do this, and it'll take the time it takes, and I'm sure they'll be back before I'm done, and that's just fine and dandy, because I'm saturated now. So anyhow, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards and see what they have to say for us today. If we need to take a 4th, we will, and then we'll take a rune from the Elder Futhark bag, and we'll do a geomancy rune to close. So let's take our first 3 cards. And I take the 13th card each time for randomness sake. Well, we start with the Devil. The 15th card of the Major Arcana, you're looking at a 6 energy. So higher self informing this. Devil's about self-imprisonment. Where is your allegiance? Is it to ego or is it to spirit? What drives the vehicle? The Knight of Wands, fire element. Lots of energy with knights. They're going out there on their grail quests. They're making their way, typically on behalf of others, or at least the king, one of the two, if not the whole kingdom, at least for the king or queen, the ruler of the kingdom, or the realm. The World, the very last card of the Major Arcana, the 21st card. So we've got 21 and 6, that's 27, and that gives us a 9 energy, which aligns with today. So I think what we're going to do here is we're probably going to stop with 3 cards. I think that, now we did this last week. If we look at this from a yod perspective, where you have 2 things that are in the case of a yod, 2 planetary bodies that support each other as a foundation, an interaction that's a sextile interaction. It's harmonious, but it's supporting one another. So you could say that understanding the essence of the devil and the world would be the foundation for this, either from the lower level or from the standpoint of spirit. And we're going to do it from the standpoint of spirit because the devil and the world are major cards and those are soul archetype cards. And then the focal point is, what is he going to do with it? Okay? When it comes into form, what kind of message is he going to carry here? Again, the fire element is in play here with the suit of wands, and let's take a look at the focal point of this first. He's got the reins of the horse in his left hand, his receptive hand. So he's, in balance. Think Rido, the fifth rune of the Elder Futhark. You're talking about reciprocity. You're talking about rhythmic motion, rhythmic harmony with others. Think rider and horse. Again, here, perfect example of it, where he's not really controlling the horse as much as guiding, and the horse knows what he wants the horse to do. So, there's a sense of reciprocity here. You see triple aspects in the background with the pyramids. He's on a quest to the Holy Land. He's got his staff in his right hand. The visor's up, so he's not in battle. But he's passionate, he's protective, he's taking a risk. So the risk then, I hate when my calendar starts informing me of things. I hear this little soft beep. It's like, what? But what we have here with the Devil card is we're talking about egoic focus. But with the sixth energy, you're talking about shared purpose. You're talking about higher self-influences. You see the female on the left, denoting the receptive presence. You see the male on the right, denoting projective presence. So that's talking about polarity, not gender, but polarity. Gender is actually about regeneration. But polarity would be, basically you're talking about the center of the cross right here. If you were to look at this is vertical and this is horizontal, the center of the cross is right here. You can see that Baphomet or the devil or whoever you want this guy to be, he's got his hands in the same position as the magician. Only in this case, his strength is in his left hand, okay, from his perspective, left hand. And he holds in his hand a lighted torch, doesn't he? Pointed down toward form. While his right hand reaches towards spirit. So there's your as above, so below nature of this card. But you see with the inverted pentagram up above that the focus is on ego and not on spirit. You see the horns for Aries, the ram. You see the goat's head. But basically what we're talking about here is where are we placing our focus? Are we putting it in a situation that is totally service to self, where it's only about what the primal nature within wants? It's about instinct. It's about just doing whatever the moment needs without any thought for any consequences or for any balance. And so you've got to really, you can tell that the power is pressing downward, can't you? As he perches upon his, whatever that is. It reminds me of one of those old-fashioned posts where you tie your horse up to. But basically, you're being chained to ego with the devil card. But it's not necessarily a bad card per se. It's not necessarily negative. It's just alerting us to the fact that when we're in form, the risk is there, and that may be the risk that this guy takes, if he gets carried away with himself. If he does not remain in balance, then he can be a little too much. He can become too carried away, become authoritarian. Instead of someone who's standing up and speaking truth to power, he could then become oppressive. So you can see how you balance the polarity within there. But with the world, you have the synthesis. And once you get all of this into balance, then basically you have the synthesis of all of that. You see the elemental representatives on each corner of the card. You see the wreath with both lemniscates, talking about the eternal cycle of things, the never-ending cycle of our lives. So basically the wheel turns continuously. You have the Wheel of Fortune as the 10th card. You have this as the 21st card. but it's a similar type of cyclical kind of thing, with the you see it also with the chariot of your that same sort of theme of when to allow and when to take control. The same sort of experience here. There's a sense of that with also with Rido, the fifth rune of the Elder Futhark, where we're determining when to take control and when to allow. And that's really what we're talking about here in the Devil card as well. But are we going to have dominion over the ego? Will spirit have dominion over the ego, or will we forget spirit entirely and have ego be all that is? But you see, if you do that, it's an illusion, and it's not sustainable. Whereas with the world, we're talking about all things in synthesis, aren't we? All things have come together. All of the messages of the prior major arcana cards, all of the soul archetype experiences that we will have come to completion, essentially. And so there's a sense of endings and completion today, again, with the 9 energy and the 9 energy of the reading. So something has come to pass. But I really think that it's something where we've perhaps resigned ourselves, maybe. Let's look at let's take a rune though and see if we can get another perspective here. If not, I may go ahead and add a 4th card. It's almost like we know now that the polarity has to be balanced. That if you're going to be able to move through life without illusion, basically, if you're going to move about life in truth, then you have to be able to resolve that polarity within. And polarity can be any number of things, basically. Everything is about the 2 sides of the same coin. I think I talked about that in one of the things I did. I don't know if it was in the goddess one, maybe it was, but I talked about that as well. I talked about it in the discussion on the Kabbalion on the YouTube channel, where one of the principles is the law of it has to do with polarity, and it's the notion that whether you're talking about self or the other side of self, you're talking about the greater aspect of self, right? And within that, you have yourself and everyone else, essentially. Well, the same thing here. You can be held back in a sense, or you can succeed. But if you succeed, you're doing so from the standpoint of spirit, not from something that's unsustainable. Although one could argue the criminal, element in the world can be quite successful, can't they? But what has it done to spirit within when they're unable to extend themselves to others in a way that makes sense and isn't oppressive? Well, we have Vunyo, the 8th rune of the Elder Futhark. And that's about fellowship and joy. We see Kenaz. We'll draw this out. Runes are very rarely simply, one energy. And so you have Vunyo, which looks like the letter P. Don't want to draw it like Thurzaz. So that's a terrible looking one. But you have Isa, you have Laguz, and you have Kenaz in reverse that comprise Vunyo. And Isa is the 11th rune of the Elder Futhark, and that is about freezing something into place. It's the Norn rune of the static realm, and so alignment in your own source presence. Whereas Laguz is about flow, both water element runes. And then we come to Kenaz turned inward, and that's the light of spirit turned inward. You cannot be in fellowship with other people if you're waiting for that to happen. It has to start from within. So fellowship is expressed before it's received, basically. So even if someone expresses that to you and you're not thinking about it at the moment, you're still in that same Vunyo state of mind. You're in that receptive state of mind, ready to receive that level of benevolence and fellowship. which likely can't really happen if, your focus is on the material side of life or the egoic side of life. So you take a risk, and you allow the understanding, the greater understanding of what's at stake when all you have is an ego focus. You understand the two sides of the same coin, basically. You understand the bigger picture of self and service to self and service to others, if you want to call it that. A self-oriented focus versus an other-oriented focus, maybe you could say. I mean, in a sense, you could look, at this as the self, and the collective consciousness, the greater collective consciousness of life, of who we are. And then having that inform the risk that we take. The risk that we take to let go of the ego and live in that collective consciousness type of experience with one another. Living in the vunyo of it all and the fellowship of it all. So I think that really is what it is, and I think probably vunyo is what pulled it together. So I don't know that we need another card. So I guess, with the Knight then today, we're going to basically be trying to bring that whole perspective, something that's a narrow focus, transmuting it then into something greater. Let's do I need to move my computer cord here. Let's see what the geomancy runes, though, have to say. Let's see what we got. Okay. I love it. I love it when I get either Populus and Via. I don't have to think about it. It's either they're all two dual dots on each of them, or it's, or it's all single dots. Then it's easy. But this one, I believe, is it Amicio? Yeah. Okay. Oh, and this was in the goddess focus or forecast. Is it Juno? Let's see. It's Vesta and Ceres are the more Earth Mother types, and so they resonate more with earth and water. And then it's Juno and Pallas that are more air and fire. And I think that Juno, I sort of aligned with fire. Because the thing about Juno is it's the greater understanding to allow ego death. And ego death doesn't mean that, anyway, it's just an expression, it's provocative. But the idea behind ego death is that the ego folds into spirit, transmutes itself into spirit, because the ego doesn't need that type of perspective to function, right? And to go about life. The personality or ego doesn't need to be solely focused on its own issues. It can understand the greater picture. It just has to let go of the old one, the old paradigm, and allow itself to be transmuted into something greater. And so I think with Amicio, and I should draw it out for you. It's like I'm sitting here talking about it and I'm not drawing it. The thing about Amicio is about loss. But I mean, it could be, loss of a relationship. I mean, it could be any kind of loss. But I think what we're talking about here is the loss of the imbalance that has been plaguing us for a long, long time. I think that, when you talk about patriarchy, the world has been plagued by this forever. And the notion of us living in balance is just not there. Instead, we live this life, where you could think of this as a card of patriarchy, where we're just all a slave to this whole weird notion of oppression being the only way to do things, So instead of having a conversation with somebody and saying, oh, let's resolve this, or let's forge a new bond or whatever. No, we got to do it by threatening. I don't know how you do that, but this is a Amicio. So you have fire, that's an active principle with a single dot, then air, which is passive, and then water, which is active, and then earth, which is passive. So you have a sense of water. See, fire and water are contrary to one another because water is going to quench fire. And so we may feel plagued by a sense of emotional loss here. It's kind of playing out what is it, the moon in conjunct with the sun in a way, right? Where the moon is the water sign and or the water element and the sun is the fire element, right? And so you feel out of sorts, but the reason that we feel out of sorts is because of the focus on self and self concerns and ego. You're never going to be sustained by that. You're always going to be in this chaotic feeling that's never secure. And again, with the moon in Taurus today, security is found through routine and stability. So we have to find a way to balance this, right? So that we understand the greater picture here. It's the only way to do that. And so you take a risk and you let go, right? And you move out of that self-oriented focus into fellowship with others so that you understand the greater picture. So in this case, emissio then would be the loss that we feel, or the loss we need to experience, the ego death that Juno's talking about, oh, we have to die to the Lilith within, maybe, I don't know, and move on into something more lofty, the Juno within, because they're kind of at odds with each other sometimes. The goddess planetary bodies are the asteroids or dwarf planets. What is Vesta now considered a dwarf planet? One of them is considered a dwarf planet now. So, in any event, I think that's pretty much it. I think that we've seen examples of ego run amok in our lives. We all have. Sometimes our own runs amok. But I think that for what we're seeing right now is such a massive example of it that, unfortunately, even if we aren't, it's not us doing it, it's affecting our lives. We had some soldiers die this weekend from a terrorist attack from a Saudi national who's here training to be a pilot. There's a fighter pilot, I guess. Apparently there's a bunch of Saudi people that are here doing that they're training with our military. And this is what we do. We offer this, I guess. Well, he decided to kill some people, and they were military, I guess, is what I'm hearing. So before anything comes out, the guy in the Oval Office is defending Saudi Arabia, and they're so upset, and they're going to pay the families, as if you can, like it's no big deal. There's no grief, there's no outrage, there's no anger, there's no, expel them all. There's none of that. There's just, they're going to get paid. Like it's okay, no harm, no foul, no muss, no fuss. Their families' lives are changed forever, but we'll just pay them. Just, what do you have here? It's that same thing, isn't it? There has to be a way to shift things now. And I think that it's with the greater understanding of what's really happening. And to see that cyclical nature of things, to see that, if you want to think of it in terms of patriarchy, and I mean, I think what we're seeing right now is the last vestiges of it. And anytime you see an ending to something like that, there's going to be all this struggle, and they're going to try to stay alive, and, so it gets worse. It always gets worse before it gets better, right? When you're going to see big structural changes within society. But I think that we've been at odds with one another for so long now that we're just tired of it. We've done it for so long and we've experienced it for so long. The powers that be, I think, are even tired of it. It's just that expression, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's like that. And I think that what the reading is just telling us that we're better off in fellowship, and in harmony with others, the greater sense of, redo or reciprocity, that the rider and horse tends to imply. I mean, there are people that are so skilled and so in tune with that ride horses, that are so in tune with them that, it's almost like there's no need to even communicate. There's just a slight nudge, slight pressure with one knee and the horse knows what to do, or a slight pressure with another knee, the other knee, the horse knows where to go. It's that type of subtle interaction that we really ought to be, experiencing with one another, to where we instinctively know what's going to work and what isn't, and what's reasonable and what isn't, and what's a way forward and what's a way into just nothingness. And I think that we're beginning to learn what that is. Unfortunately, it's playing out, in the impeachment hearings, but it has to. This man has been used to getting away with everything. And it's time now that that ended, because so much is at stake here. But mostly what's at stake is who we are to one another. So I think that irrespective of whether or not you want to take this as from the broader, societal approach, or you want to look at this internally, we all have to come to some kind of understanding of what our polarity is. And if we are so out of balance that we're unable to really effectively interact with one another, that has to change. And I think that that's what this is saying. You do it by moving the single-minded focus to one that is greater than simply yourself. And then it's very difficult, to not look at someone as the other side of self instead of the other. With the Knight of Wands is saying, take a risk, do it, go there. You'll be surprised, because what you're going to lose is the single-minded focus that's kept you back. Because whatever you think it's doing for you, that's an illusion. It's the illusion of ego, that ego wants you to believe. So in any event, that's pretty cool. And it's cool that it's sort of aligned really well with today's numerology of 9, and also with a little bit of what the astrological forecast is, especially that in conjunct between the sun and the moon. Again, it's going to pass, but tomorrow is maiden, and then the next day is mother, and then the following day is crone. And so I guess that would be the 12th would be crone. Yeah. I was hoping it was going to be the 13th, but no, because we have a Friday the 13th this week, so yay. Anyhow. Oh, the other thing we have this week is a 12-12 gateway. And so that's going to be, I guess, on the crone phase, because, yeah, full moon's on the 11th. So the 12-12 gateway will then be on Thursday the 12th. So, and I wrote a little bit about that in both the goddess forecast and also the weekly Rune and Moon. I talked about that. So and we'll talk more about that on Thursday as to what I think that does represent, because it's the second of two. We had on the 3rd of this month that 2019 reduces to 3. So we had a 3-3-3 gateway. 12 reduces to 3. And so on the 3rd of this month, we had a 3-3-3 gateway or portal. This one here coming up is just going to be a 2-3, so a 3-3 gateway. And I think that's what it is. No, it's another 3-3-3, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I'll have to adjust that. But we're talking about Christ consciousness there, aren't we? Yeah, so I think that these are gateways to manifestation in a way that again looks at the greater picture and not just simply at what's going on inside you. But you got to understand that there's more to the picture than just you. So, in any event, we'll talk more about that on Thursday, though. And do check out the blog. I'd love you to do that. Lots of things go up all the time, and check out my Patreon account if you want to go over there and support me there. Again, look at the links below, and if there's anything you're interested in, lots of stuff to talk about there. I'm going to actually, like I said, I'm going to set up different pages for some of the ones, at least some of the ones I'm doing. But other than that, let's see what else. There's the Facebook page. Well, you'll see all of it below the blog here, or below the blog, below the video, so you'll see it all there. So check all that out and come back tomorrow. Thank you so much for stopping by, and be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.